Welcome to Empowered. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge and pay my respect to the past, present and future traditional custodians and elders of this nation and the continuation of cultural, spiritual and educational practices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. We further acknowledge the land on which we work here at RED, which is the land of the Turrbal and Yugara peoples. The struggle that you have overcome might be the struggle a queen is currently sinking in. We all have a story and we all need to share it. So welcome to Empowered. Here you will be surrounded by a community of queens who have conquered their own. I am very blessed to have a village of people in my corner who lead with love, share their success tips, and this is a platform for their stories. Be it your career success, a fitness achievement, finding your personal balance with that elusive work-life balance, there is a queen out there struggling to stay above water. And if you had the cure to cancer, you'd share it. I believe your story is someone's cure. Your story will help save a soul, and this world needs way more of that. The intention for these potties is to host guests with topics and tricks shared with the listener to help them live a life full of love, happiness and success. Be surrounded by queens who have walked your path and resonate with their stories. What do you know now that has helped your journey that you would love for your younger self to have in your toolbox? Welcome to Empowered. And today's queen, I'm very excited. I shouldn't have favourites, but I do, and here you are.
Oh, my gosh. And that will be forever.
Always.
Amazing.
Rumi, is the one, the only, Jess Torpey.
Woo! Thanks for having me.
Torpey Torpedo. I have you still saved in my phone as Torpedo.
I saw when I came into reception.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I didn't mean to look to you in my introduction for the fitness achievement, but it's predominantly part of your big story, which I'd love to unpack today because I think that's really cool. We have a lot of things in common, a joy and a natural spark and a love for life, determination, love of dogs.
Absolutely.
Most of the time, love of our husbands.
Yep. All the time?
Yeah,
Maddie?
all the time. Like and love sometimes. We absolutely do not have potential athleticism and Commonwealth Games experience. That is not something we have in common.
And we also don't have in common our sports understanding.
It's not Commonwealth Games, is it? Was it the Olympics?
No. Well, we can unpack that. It's definitely not Com Games.
Oh, my gosh. Memory like an absolute goldfish. All right, well, we're going to hear about that so you can tell your story. I won't fabricate that and tell the wrong story. But Jess and I, way back yonder, feels like yesterday but also decades ago.
Absolutely.
In the human behaviour space, and we were roommates.
Yep.
I'm sure we were a massive distraction, but
the
a joy.
Rest of the office. You mean they hated us? Probably.
Absolutely. Did we bring joy and sparkle? Also, yes.
Absolutely.
And we're still very lucky to consider our other roommates and colleagues and people in that space very good friends.
Absolutely.
Much love. That was a beautiful time in my life, and I just loved it. And you're a gift from that moment as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Many a time when I ask guests to be on my podcast, they go, but why? And you didn't even question that. So I love that.
I'm too confident.
Which topic do you want, doll?
Yeah. I've got a lot to unpack.
I know. No, I love that because I think you have this beautiful pride without being cocky. Like you just have a natural, I know who I am. Do you realise that, or do you?
No, but on reflection, when you were talking about the purpose of Empowered, because I've done my research.
She's not watched a single episode.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Big supporter of you.
You played hockey, didn't you? No.
Oh, God.
We'll get to that.
But I was reflecting on probably one of the biggest things, and it's not really a lesson I've learned. It's something I'm probably most proud of, and that's around being true to myself and just owning my stuff.
Good. You do.
Do you know what I mean?
You're
and
very
knowing my values
unapologetically.
and just sticking with it.
What are your values?
Sorry,
put you on the spot. Shit.
So connection is a big one, authenticity, and probably just passion.
I feel that.
They're probably my top 3, to be honest.
That's good. Yeah. That's so good. Do you do values with Matt? Like share together as...
So great question. There was once, and for those listening at home, my husband and I are very different but similar. He's obviously a tradie, has his own plumbing and gas fitting business, which...
Would you like to plug?
Your Mate's Plumbing and Gas.
Yeah. Unlike Your Mate's Brewery.
Very similar. They should do a collab, in fact.
Love that.
But we are so different. And then, in the world I work... I'll go, Maddie, let's unpack your values.
Oh, my
what
God.
would that be? And he's like, but he...
Same eye roll with Chris.
He absolutely, does it in his own way and is similar in his own way in terms of he's probably never done the formal work to identify it, but he lives his values.
He's never process mapped it out and,
correct.
has a whiteboard.
And gone, what's my goals? Yes. What am I going to set? What support do I need to achieve that? No. But he does it in his own way.
That's cool.
So we have done it once, but, and my sister-in-law sent me this meme the other day and she was like, this is me with my brother Dean. And it was like when someone talks about work and asks what your partner does and you sit there going, no idea.
Absolutely.
Maddie has absolutely no idea what I do.
That's so cute. You know what he does?
Yeah.
Deals with shit all day.
Yeah.
Literally.
Absolutely.
I love that. Do you want to speak to what you do in your career and what you love? Because you're a freaking weapon at it. I used to watch you and just be like, you could create something out of nothing every single time.
Thank you. That's very kind. So
that's a genuine compliment. It's not like you polish turds. It's amazing.
So I suppose I'll go back to where it all started.
True.
And it started for me at a big rail freight organisation, Horizon, based in Brizzy here. Super fortunate enough to be in a grad program there, which meant that I got to try out lots of different stuff. So I loved that. In terms of an organisation to start my career at, it was the best starting place for me. Gave me the ability to
started big.
Move. And my background was public relations, shocked, and journalism, right? So I loved talking, I loved writing, I loved communicating, and started in this great organisation, went everywhere. And one of the coolest things about that organisation is they just didn't really give a shit about what people said. They did what they wanted and what was right. So at that point, gender diversity was a massive issue. It was, I want to say there was 95% men, maybe 5-6% women when I started. And so they just unapologetically said, this isn't good enough. Let's really push the...
Change it.
Yeah, change it.
That's
and,
amazing.
every single role in our business.
That's a while ago, right?
Absolutely. Probably a good 12 years ago now.
Yeah, wow, that's big.
So I was sitting there one day in, after the grad program, was in external relations, used to write speeches for the CEO and PowerPoints, and got a call from our HR team and said, hey, we've identified you as a person to go into a frontline leadership role out at Red Bank in Heavy Hall. And I was like, pardon?
Me?
Yeah. They're like, well, you've put in our HR system that you're really passionate about leadership, creating cultures of high-performing teams, which is true because I suppose the sport side, the external to work, was the thing that really lit me up.
All that hockey.
Softball. And so I had this moment where I really doubted myself because I knew I was
Imposter syndrome?
Absolutely. Yeah. Where I was like, holy shit, I'm a young female about to go out
I have to
and
perform.
Potentially deal with a bunch of trades. So went through the interview process. I interviewed the hiring manager more than he interviewed me, which is not surprising. But I just called it out. I said, hey, how do you think that the guys would react if a 26-year-old
20-something
female comes in, is their leader, has no idea, zero experience? And I went home and spoke to Maddie, my husband. Well, at the time he was my boyfriend.
Your boyfriend.
And I said, Maddie, the weirdest things happened at work today. I've just had this opportunity and it's a secondment, so it's a 5-month opportunity. And he goes, after I told him about it, so let me get this straight. You would manage someone like me. And I said, yeah. And he's like, that's the fucking stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I was like, right, I'm doing
Signing up on that note, yeah.
So I then went to one of a really good friend of mine who was one of the execs in HR and said, I just don't feel right about it. Like I want to do it, but the fact that I'm getting this opportunity because I'm female, and I'll never forget what he said to me.
Yeah.
He turned around and he said to me, hey, I'm just going to tell you something about my career. Every single job I've gotten, well, not every single, but majority of them, has been because a mate has gotten me a job. He's like, so how is this any different?
Oh, that's so good.
And I was like, whoa. And so
I'm covered in goosebumps.
Yeah, and it really kind of made me, because obviously we talk a lot about particularly gender diversity in male-dominated industries, and it made me really rethink the whole thing about it, and then put on another lens of, you know, how many times we see technical people promoted into a leadership role because they're the best technician.
Well, they've had longevity.
Like it should be about, and they really went outside the box and said, no, you've got leadership capability. We want you to help this team. They're going through a huge amount of change. It was like a really hard time for that team out at Red Bank. And I loved the opportunity. And that's the point in my career that really just put it on steroids and kind of gave me a new purpose and direction.
It's like those sliding doors. Imagine if you said no. Imagine if you caved into that imposter syndrome and went, nah, I can't do that.
Yeah.
What would life look like now? Like that'd be totally different. So that was a pivotal career moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And cool. It's probably one of the biggest things, like depending what it is, I will nearly always say yes.
Even if you're scared shitless.
Absolutely, because you never know what's going to come. And I don't know if you know of Mark Matthews, big wave surfer, but he, recently was at one of his keynotes he did, and his whole thing's about like what's on the other side of fear.
Yes.
And his whole thing is the only way to get through fear is to experience it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You cannot train for it. You cannot, do any meditation, mindfulness, any of that. Like you've just got to get
lean
through
into it. Yep.
And so the worst thing, I was like, well, the worst thing that can happen is I hate this, and I go, this isn't for me.
And
so
you are the master of your own destiny and just choose another path.
Yeah.
Or go and work with Maddie. Could you imagine?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
All those people in COVID who worked with their husbands or partners from home, I was like, I would, no.
No.
A hard no.
It can work, Christopher. Hey. No, we love
# love you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's really cool. And that's a really great take home for someone listening right now who perhaps is younger than we are. But, that imposter syndrome is real. Even, Pink, the artist, has it. She's like, are you sure? I released another album, somebody's going to listen to it, and every time it's a bloody hit wonder. I like that we're likening ourselves to Pink.
Yeah. Duh.
Same bank account and everything. But yeah, that imposter syndrome is just a voice in our head, right?
Absolutely.
And it's a story that we've made up it's just false. So
Absolutely.
That's really cool. There's somebody out there who will, lean into that as a support mechanism. So that obviously was a little while ago in your career, but what have you, obviously you've taken on board that construct of just get in there and be unapologetic, but what now does your career look like and what's the future look like career-wise as well? What's your goals?
Yeah, great question. So from there, obviously, went and had the pleasure of working with you, Emma. And that was really great work, like understanding, for lots of different big clients around Australia, right? Like what are their issues and how can we help them from that behaviour change point of view.
Did you do much in that human behaviour space prior?
I had done a bit.
I mean, obviously everything you've ever done is really human focused.
Absolutely. But in terms of an actual role, no.
Yep.
So I learnt so much there.
We faked it very well. See, make something out of nothing.
Absolutely. And I really enjoyed that. It was probably challenging being in a consultancy for me, like rather than being embedded in an organisation.
Understood.
You can have the best plans and hand that over to whoever you're working with. But if it's all about the engagement and the rollout, to be honest, in whatever you do. That was a great time in terms of the people I met, the people we worked with, the clients we had. And then from there went to a bit of a different, diverse role at UQ, University of Queensland.
That's right.
Yeah, and the whole purpose around that, and this is where I bring the athlete life in, was leading into the 2020 Olympics. My goal was to make the softball, the Olympic softball team,
Games.
Not the Commonwealth Games.
Emma. I was so close to you then too. I was so cheering you on.
Yeah. And so I went essentially to a recruiter and said, hey, like, I love change management. I love behaviour change. I would love a job in that space, but it needs to be Brisbane-based with no travel.
Yep.
Because I need to train, and I was a firm believer I could do it all, which I did in terms of fitting in full-time work, succeeding at work, and being an athlete and representing my country. So
and to be fair, that's exactly the point that I wanted you to speak to. And that's why I just was in awe of you. I always am, but in particular in that time of your life, it was insane. Like, how on earth did you manage to, like, you're just a Wonder Woman.
Thank you. I look back now and have no idea how I did it. And even my mum, when I finished playing, was like, I don't know how you did that. And I think it's number one, like, I was just so driven. Like, I am going to do that. I'm going to set my mind to it. No matter what setbacks happen, that is my goal. And that's what I'm going to do. And also at work, I want to be a high performer. Like, I want to take on more. And, like, I've never thought that you need to do one or the other. And the other day I was having a chat to a woman who, like, I have never met before this day, and she was talking to me about she's on the end of parental leave and not sure, like, if she can go back to work. And I was like, well, why can't you do it all? And she was like, I've never thought about that. And, like, I understand everyone's different, but that's always my, like, why can't there be a female CEO in a job share in an ASX company? Like, that would be amazing to see.
Is that you? Did we just manifest that?
If you dream it, you
Tomorrow.
believe it. No, not where I can imagine going. But you never say never, right?
Absolutely. And why not?
Absolutely.
So what is the goal for you career-wise? What's 10 years Jess look like? 10 years away for Jess look like?
Yeah, great question. So currently working at a smaller mining company, Kestrel Coal Resources, which is awesome in the org development capability space. And that absolutely lights me up. And also understanding more around the broader HR lights me up. So that's where I want to head into a bigger leadership role in the next 10 years that's really diverse and has lots of different people under, because I love leading people and teams. Like, that's what absolutely lights me up. And, like, just being in a place where you can help create a great culture.
Preach.
So, yeah. So I don't know exactly what that looks like, but that's what's important to me.
That's awesome. And you are an exceptional leader, but you're a leader without realising it in everywhere. You know, like, you're a kind, compassionate, but a leader who leads within. You know, it's
Thank you.
You know, you've met leaders who are dictators and, insert
absolutely
negative word here. And I don't know whether you've seen leaders like that and gone, whoa, not going to be that one, and charged the complete opposite direction, or whether you just are you authentically and unapologetically, and that just is your leadership style. Like, I don't know if you've actually strategically approached your leadership like that, or is it just natural because it's organically you?
I think it's natural, and it probably comes back to, like, your values and your beliefs when when you're young, and what your parents instill in you. And I was super lucky to have, and still am, they're alive, which is great.
That got real dark real quick. And we're back.
Yeah, but just that whole sense of that drive from my parents, and just they were both teachers, and it was all around, treat others how you want to be treated. And, well, why would you treat anyone differently?
Yes.
And, what shits me the most is, people in a workplace who look down on someone else because they're in a job perceived as under them.
Oh, I can't stand that.
It just kills me.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
All those people that manage up really well, and everyone's going, well, that person's a dick.
Absolutely.
And then, the CEO's like, oh, they're a great person. And you're like, yeah, no.
They're killing your culture. That's toxicity right there.
And I think the other thing is just, I'm really... I try to be, no, I think I am empathetic.
You are, absolutely.
Like, you might not, understand exactly what someone else is going through, but you can make a bloody good effort in understanding and being there for them. Because obviously, we talk a lot about apathy versus sympathy versus empathy, and empathetic leadership, I think, is the key.
Ding, ding. I agree. Very much so. Do you want a job? Sorry, Kestrel, I've taken it. Yeah, exactly. I love that. And you're right. We're all about, obviously, framework and process mapping and the implementation is the important part, but the rollout, the consistency, something that we're very, very both passionate about. It's something that we talk about here. So at Red, shameless plug, as the Chief of Happiness, I am responsible for but love everything people related. I think we've always had that in common as well.
Yeah.
And being in a tech space, a tech industry, you can very quickly lose the human element to anything we do. So you mentioned that your name was on the welcome board out the front. That's the little things that we do from start to finish to make sure even our customers are felt. It's not just a logo and a business. We're dealing with the human.
Absolutely.
And a lot of when we were working in that space together, I actually use still today, so I probably should pay some trademark rights or something. But rolling out or seeing what you rolled out and the framework of it, you're right, it's got to be, it can't be here's the framework, off you go, see you later, and good luck. The people have got to marinate in that framework and that process and in the implementation. So it's key that you're present in that as well.
Absolutely.
So do you love that moment when it's like, wow, that was a concept or a framework that I implemented and it's actually working, you see it evolve and come to life? Is that something that fills you with joy?
Absolutely. And we've just done a big leadership program that we called Unleashed.
I saw that.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And in terms of businesses that, especially in the heavy industry, male-dominated industries that give back and put time into their people, that's why I'm at Kestrel. And anyway, so we had 220 people last year go through. It was a year kind of leadership program with 8 different topics covering everything from what's yourself, leadership style, what's your DISC profile, through to how to give feedback, feed forward, how to planning and prioritising, communication, all of the things that you kind of need a reminder on, whether you're super experienced or inexperienced.
Yeah.
But the really cool thing from that is at the end of it, we went out to, all of Kestrel who had done it. Unfortunately, our operators didn't do it, the guys at the coalface, but everyone else did. And we said, hey, nominate, has there been anyone who you've seen have a positive shift in their leadership style
that's cool.
in the last 6 to 12 months, since we've started it? And we had so many nominations. There was one person who got 15. So we then had prizes. We then made a big deal out of it.
Good.
And, if people got nominated, we then wrote them a little postcard and said, hey, someone has seen you and this is what they've said.
Oh,
and so it was just,
again.
just those types of things.
Yeah.
And if you talk to our CEO, he'll tell you how many wives of people at work stopped him at different events and said, you have not only changed so-and-so's life at work, but at home through that program.
I will not cry.
Do not cry.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's those things that and in anything you do, right, especially in the culture capability space, a lot of the time it's a shit fight to get something off the ground.
Never.
Which you're trying to, because it's hard, because it's not a project that is going to give you a specific dollar figure return on ROI, whatever that is. Ask your people.
You got people for that stuff.
Yeah. But it's those other things that really help in terms of that retention piece and that, how do we light our employees up? How do we make them feel like they belong? How do we help them? Yeah.
Especially in that space. I mean, the similarities in the work that we do is very similar because it is sometimes struggle street.
Yeah.
And I mean that with all the love in my heart, but we have a camaraderie culture here. That
Love your values, by the way.
Thank you.
First thing I saw after Torpedo on the TV.
But they're not just on the wall. We
Yeah.
speak to them every day. They're in performance reviews. They're in, shout outs of great work. I love what you mentioned there before about, the difficulties of here's a concept, go do that thing, and they're kind of like deer in headlights going, what? You want me to do what?
Yeah.
One of the very first things I did here at Red was we use MS Teams very heavily, and I made a channel called Gratitude.
Oh, I love that.
And I just started Thank You Thursdays. Just started really small.
Oh.
No one fucking did anything. It was like crickets.
Emma from Chief Happiness Officer, Gratitude.
So in the beginning, and Chris was like, Emma, that's absolutely not going to be picked up. Like, we're in technology. 99% are either diagnosed or not, and neurodivergent and unsure of how to give emotion or receive it.
And did you say you don't know me, Dal?
Shush, Dal. And now it's probably one of the most commonly tagged or spoken to channels. How
love
cool is
that.
that? So it's those simple things and the aha moments, but emotion in both of our worlds, so in the mining and information technology worlds, it used to seem or feel taboo. It's so not. I mean, it's so not anywhere, but especially in our worlds, especially when it is male dominated. I think that fills me with super purpose every day to strive harder, do more, because of that, like you said, the wives piece. Like, we're not just changing people's lives and making them happier and enjoy their life, although we spend most of our life at work. It's what comes off the back of that. So, well done. Thank you. As we know, like the suicide rate in men is just horrendous. We speak about mental health every single day here, neurodivergency, ADHD are at the wazoo. But it's what makes us us, and we lean into that. So, and you taught me that leaning into. I loved working with you with that, like the leaning into things instead of leaning away. And they're just such simple things that we can have big impacts on people's lives. And sometimes we don't realise it until we take moments like this and actually shoot the shit and talk about it.
Absolutely.
How cool is it that we get to be this person in other people's lives? Like, it's really cool, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's all about you, but I'm making it all about me too.
Oh, no.
No, but it's about us, right? So I really appreciate everything that you've taught me in that space when we were working together, because it's allowed me to go, I'm not just a crazy person with this ambitious desire
Passion.
for better.
Yep.
It's actually able to be achieved, and you're also doing it. And, the others that we still love, that we worked around as well. That's really cool. So thank you for sharing that with me and our listeners and viewers. Let's talk more about your athleticism. Like,
Sure.
You're just a weapon. So back when we were a lot closer in the workspace that we were in, you were just so focused, and you made me feel so unfit. No. Still am. But no, I loved also too watching a couple of your games, and Maddie, your husband, that was so cool. I couldn't fathom you being able to achieve that without Matt's support too. I mean, you would have, but it would have been a bit more of a struggle if he wasn't on board with it.
I think 100% in terms of not even a bit more of a struggle. Like, I think in a relationship when, in whatever you're doing, like, you've got to find someone, you've got to be with someone that brings out the best in you.
Correct.
And that's can be, you're similar, you're different, but, and for me, support was just a non-negotiable.
But it obviously was for him too. It was.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm talking about like back when you like dating and
right,
you're
yes.
like, oh, yep, nah. But yeah, in terms of softball, I suppose, to give everyone at home like a bit of an overview, nothing came easy to me. So, and what I mean by that is there was plenty of my mates who were super talented naturally, like high performers, consistently made their state team, their national
without
team.
even trying.
Trying,
yes.
They absolutely tried,
Yeah.
but I worked my ass off. Like, I was so driven, and I knew that to get to where I wanted to go, I had to work harder than everyone, and I had to just grind. And, and what that looked like in a normal working week when we worked together.
Oh, mate.
I would, 3 mornings a week we're at gym at the Queensland Academy of Sport. So, getting up at 4:15 every morning, or those 3 mornings, driving to gym. Then on the way home from gym, stopping at a random oval somewhere so I could do some of my own training for half an hour. So I'd hit a ball into a net off a tee. I had a bucket of balls, so it wasn't like I had to go fetch it every time. And then I'd drive to work, shower, start work, finish work, go to team training, whether that's club, whether that's state training, and then get home, eat dinner, go to sleep. Like it was
rinse and repeat. Groundhog
for
Day?
such a long time. It's so funny because although it felt like I had time to do stuff at that point, I look back now and now my guilty pleasure is just going home and then watching TV.
Oh, doll.
Because I'm like,
slob.
I
Not.
never, people at work
No.
and talk about shows and I'm like,
Yeah, that's a great series. It's a
let
movie,
me put
Jess.
that down for when I travel overseas next.
You have the longest list.
So I just never, and that's fine. But it all came down to, Maddie and my parents, really. Like my parents initially, because they said to me once, you can do all of the things you want to do in terms of sport, but you can never miss a training for anything.
Whoa.
So even if that's year 12 exams, if you commit, you commit. You don't just miss a training because you haven't planned your time effectively. And so it was a really good lesson to learn early. And I think that's why I could juggle things and fit everything, because I just knew if I was going to commit to something, you make it happen or you don't commit.
Yeah. Yeah, don't sign up.
Yeah.
Why softball? I don't think I've ever asked you that.
Oh, good question. So my auntie captained Australia for a long time. I want to say 12 years, 15 years, around there. Auntie Joyce. She captained them at the 96 Atlanta Olympics, which is the first time softball was in the Olympics, and they won a bronze medal.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and she was one of the first Australians to play professionally in Japan. So I had her. She was a big role model for me. And then my mum also, she played softball, is in the Queensland Hall of Fame. She's a Hoff, which is exciting for her.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And it's interesting because of that connection, mum never wanted me to play.
Oh.
So if I found it on my own.
Right.
Which is absolutely what happened. So in school, back when I went to primary school, in summer in Brizzy you played softball and in winter you played netball. There was no other real sport options for inter-school. Grade 5, played T-ball, was obsessed with it.
Really, straight up.
Absolutely. Just, loved it.
What did you love about it?
I just loved being in a team.
Okay.
And I think from early on, you look at your career now and that love for culture and high performance and driving teams. I just loved being in a team and just having a great time.
I feel you.
And I must have been good at it, but I never knew I was good at it. Do you know what I mean? I made Queensland when I was 12.
Duh.
And then, through high school, made lots of teams, made the Australian junior team. Still never was I'm going to play for Australia.
Duh.
Never.
Sign me up for the Olympics. Or Commonwealth
which
Games.
I didn't make.
It's okay. It's all right. We'll
Which
get
we
there.
can talk about that.
We absolutely will.
It was just a passion of mine. I really loved the whole thing around the harder you work, the harder you train, the better you get.
That's cool.
And so just from an early age, I'd have my dad out there. I'd be like, Phil Dog.
Poor dog.
That's what I'd call my dad.
again.
Phil Dog, how about you go toss me some balls at the school? And they would. So anytime I wanted to train, they would just help, which is awesome. And then, just really loved the game, loved the team, loved the girls, loved going away. Even when you're 12 years old and going to state championships and you get to room with someone and, your parents aren't there, it's just all a bit exciting. So loved that, and then got to a point where I had a coach and he said to me when I was 18, you're going to make the Australian squad, the open women's squad next year. And I looked at him and said, Lockie, no, I'm not. And I literally did. I was sitting in uni and my phone was blowing up in this lecture and I just made
Paparazzi.
my first Australian squad. at 18 with all the big dogs, right? So the Olympics had just happened. It was 2008. Beijing had happened. So this was the next year, 2009. And I was like, holy shit.
They got the wrong number.
Yeah. and then it was a bit of the imposter at that point, because I was like, I'm not very good. I don't know what they saw, but like I was never one to like do anything special. I think that's what it was, like in my mind. And then I met my husband, Matty, after that, and he was one of the best coach hands down I've ever had, and a lot of the softball girls today, because his specialty was hitting. And so I just...
Did he play as well?
He was a world champion, and then went to baseball.
Oh.
So he had a really good mix of just knowledge and skills, and that was his passion, was coaching, specifically hitting, which is a really specific skill. And we just...
Did you hit it off?
Absolutely. And so from there just got better and better. But I suppose through that journey, like made an Australian squad young, and then got dropped 3 years later from the Queensland team, and had that moment of, well, I can either quit or I can go in the draft and play for another state and get back in that team. So went in the draft, played for South Australia, had the best time, and then transferred to be a South Australian for a few years. And then at that point was like, it sucks training by yourself because you never see the team.
True.
Then went back to Queensland, and then finally debuted for the Aussie Spirit, the Open Women's team. So all these years later.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You talked before quite quickly about not making the Olympics.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Are you comfortable to talk about that?
Absolutely.
Have you healed from that part? Because I don't know that I was there with you when it actually happened, but it was...
No, it was right after we worked together.
Yeah, but I remember checking in, and it was really hard because I didn't know how much to lean in to support you, or if you just needed space, or, you know, because that's hard. That's hard to receive because you've worked so effing hard for.
Absolutely.
Tell me about everything around that.
Yeah, so everything around that, I suppose through that period, so to get to an Olympic Games, you have to qualify. Your team has to qualify. And in the year of qualification, which would have been 2019, because Olympics was meant to be 2020, but it moved to 2021. And my whole thing was, you know, at the Olympics, I'll be 30 and then I'm going to retire and have kids. Like that was my whole plan.
Right.
In terms of my head, which we can talk about how that plan went in a moment. But yeah, coming into 2019, I was like in the best form, right, that I've been in. I was so confident, comfortable, relaxed. Like at that point, you know, you talk about the 10 years prior or however many years prior, where I was like, oh, shitting myself. At that point, I was just ready.
Yeah. Give it to me. It's mine.
And the process to get so we had Olympic qualifiers in China, and the process to get there was we played a professional season in the States, which was great. The year before I'd played in the States as well for about 6 weeks and was really successful personally. The team wasn't that successful, which was disappointing, but it was good because in Australia we play club softball. We play 15 games in a season, and over there you're playing a game every day.
Oh.
So it's completely different. and in the States, they obviously, everyone, like college softball is massive. So there's a heap of people who are really, really good. So we do amazing considering how small we are.
True, that's true.
For sure. And our background. So we're over heading to the States for this professional league, and I got there and I wasn't feeling well. I was just, and this is when I worked with you. I don't know if you remember, but I was really unwell. And for the first few days, they were like, oh, you've probably picked up a cold. Anyway, ended up in hospital, had pneumonia.
That's right.
Or as one of my teammates said, is pneumonia bad?
Oh.
And I was like, oh, George, that's not.
But first up, the P's silent.
Yeah. I was like, do you say pterodactyl?
Oh my God, I do now. That's amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, so that at that point I was like, oh, I'll be fine.
I'll brush this off.
Absolutely. This will be easy. It was so hard. Went through the ringer trying, and you can imagine from an athlete mindset,
No, I can't.
Well, just imagine for me.
Hypothetically, yeah.
You're trying, you know that's a selection tournament to go to China, right? So you're doing everything you can. You're trying to rest. You're trying to be supportive. And it was a really tough experience because the team, every single person in the team would go play the game. I would be in our apartment. I couldn't even leave the apartment, right? So
It would have been a mental battle.
Yeah. And then it got to a point where we went to Florida, and we obviously had a heap of medical staff, supporting us. But I then played this game and it was so hot. And I just remember, when you're like, I'm not myself.
Oh,
and I'm
dear.
standing on the field and I'm like, oh God. And afterwards I started just my eyes were rolling back. I fainted, like my whole body's shaking. And at that point then ended up getting back in hospital for all the tests. They'd given me the wrong antibiotics.
They gave you the pneumonia, not the pneumonia.
Yeah, so I still had pneumonia, and that was really dangerous. And at that point, my dad called me and said, Jess, nothing is worth your health.
Correct.
What are you doing? Think about this logically. And I thought about it. I was like, he's like, who gives a shit about if you make that team or not because of this? Like, you need to come home and get better.
Your body is screaming out to you something. Yeah.
Had a chat with the coach, and I'm not an emotional person, but I just broke down to him and said, I need to go home. I need to get better. Went home. Queensland Academy of Sport, amazing in terms of what they did. Ended up, getting sorted, getting better, having a really prescribed workout plan to get back, because the plan was still get myself ready for the China qualifier. Hopefully I make the squad.
Right.
So worked out in heat chambers. So it's at a ridiculous percentage of humidity, and you do like a 30, 45-minute session in there, as you'd know.
I've done many of those.
And they were amazing. Got myself back.
Okay.
Got named in the qualifier squad, went to Japan. And so we were in Japan. There was 20 of us, went for, I don't know, a period of 7-8 days, played all the professional teams over there. And the coach was like, well, we are picking whoever's in form.
Right.
If you're in form and you perform, you're going to go to China.
Right.
And everyone had to go to China anyway.
Okay.
So that was another part. And so I walk in the day before we leave for China, walk into a selection meeting. And I've never been, I had played really well, and I'd never been one to assume I was in a team, but I was so just confident. Yeah. I was like, yep, I've come back from pneumonia.
Bags packed, let's go.
Yep, I've played well. I've done exactly what you've asked. And he sat me down and said, no, you haven't made it.
Oh.
And I just broke down. And I remember thinking, this is fucked. Like, how do I, and I was so embarrassed, which is that's just how I felt, which is looking back, that's the wrong way to go about it. But my family was flying to China the next day to watch.
I remember that. And you had to work out who was getting tickets and...
Yeah, so my husband, my mum, my dad were coming to China. I called them. I said, I haven't made it. They were like, what?
Very funny, Jess.
Yeah, and I said, I don't want you to come. And Matt said to me, bless him, he said, if there's ever a time for me to be there to support you, it's the time when you've got to be there and you haven't made the team. And it was really hard because, I wanted the team to do well, and it was such a mind fuck because the only way to make the Olympics is if the team qualify.
Right.
So I was like, change your mindset, sucks for you.
Let's get that team there.
Yep, let's get them there.
Yes.
And it was such a and the 5 girls, we called ourselves the Fab Five. So we were cut. It was so awkward. Culturally, they didn't handle it well at all. In terms of they sent us to the stadium in China, and they were like, "Oh no, you can't wear your Australian uniform.
No,
you can't be on the Australian team bus. We'll pay to get you there and home." And
that's not okay.
And it was such an awful but learning experience. And at that point, I think I knew if I didn't make it at that point, I was never going to make it. And so when I look back and reflect on how emotional I got, I think I knew that the writing was on the wall then for the future, 6 months that followed. So, yeah, didn't make the Olympic squad and retired. So stopped playing softball, finished club, finished playing for Queensland, obviously finished playing for Australia. And a lot of people go, oh, don't you miss it? And I was like, I don't miss – I miss the fun and all the off-the-field stuff. I miss that really like working hard for a really specific purpose. But I don't miss every single weekend in summer not knowing when my game is, not being able to commit to someone's birthday, not being able to do things. And it's not a sacrifice, it's a choice, right? But I really was just so strong on, well, that's when I'm finishing, whether it's a good or bad story. And like you reflect and you go, yeah, I didn't hit, like I failed because I didn't get my goal. But then you also have to be super grateful and celebratory of like the things you did.
How long did it take you to get to the celebratory bit?
It took a while. I went through a place where I hated the game, which really sucked because you heard me talk about how much I loved it at the start. But I think that love through that period, just because it was such a high pressure environment. And I suppose for softball in particular, we hadn't been in the Olympics since 2008. So it's not like we had a Com Games or, there was a World Championship every 4 years. But like once you're in an Olympic cycle, funding improves, like things don't cost as much, like, all of that stuff. So it was such a pressure cooker time. Yeah.
But you've thrived. Like, look at you now, like telling that story. How long ago was that?
So that'll happen in 2020.
True.
2020.
So 3 years ago.
Yep.
That's insane. Like the growth that you've had from that moment, because that's, let's be honest, let's not, that was an effed time for you. Even though you say you're not emotional, like you have every right to have been. And, I'm sure it would have been like a grieving process and all the emotions would have come out off the back of that.
Oh, for sure. And I think when you reflect, like the thing I'm least proud of is that like that feeling of embarrassment, which is so dumb, right? When you reflect. But the thing I'm proudest of is I can sit here and go, you know what? Like I did absolutely everything I could.
You gave it a crack,
and
mate.
Like how I presented myself, how I turned up, the state in which I approached everything was absolutely right. How hard I worked.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you can't like life gives you lemons, right? But as long as you've controlled the things you can control, everything else was out of my control.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of that.
Good.
Yeah.
So you should be. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
That's amazing. And you've spoken to a regular guest who is in here, Mr. Toby Jenkins. We love him.
Yeah.
That support mechanism of legends like Toby, like, hearing keynotes from Mark Matthews, hearing keynotes from Matt Torpey.
Oh,
no, but
that'd be we'd have to beep a lot of that keynote out.
I would love that. But again, in his own way, he supports you in his beautiful way. He without realising it, he has that framework.
Absolutely. And that's probably when you reflect, you probably don't spend enough time giving the gratitude to the people that do support you. So it's almost, like it's just expected.
It is, but he's there. He's going to have that. And him saying, no, mate, I'll be there for you in China. Like,
absolutely.
That's just.
He got very drunk every game.
I'm going to support you.
I would always look up and I'd be like, oh, there's another beer and a bucket hat.
We might just flash a picture of Maddie up here on the potty.
Living his best life.
He's a doll. Tiny little pocket rocket with a big personality. He's a doll. He's a doll.
Yeah.
Thank you. The whole idea that I had around these podcasts was it was short and sharp and impactful. Mm-hmm. I fear that ours today could continue on for hours, but I am going to start to wrap it up, and perhaps we have a version 2, version 3 continuation.
Absolutely.
We could do a series of Jess Torpey.
Couldn't we? How fun.
But thank you. I really appreciate you coming in. I hope that wasn't as scary as the onset of the idea of it was, but
oh no, just a chat between friends. A rosé would have been good next time.
Let's almost rosé o'clock. We have had a guest in a while ago, and it was a very heavy topic. A lot of these bad boys were consumed. And there was some white wine at about, I don't know, just shy of 10 o'clock. So
how good.
No one ever knows what time we're recording these, so it could be 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But thank you. I really appreciate it. And a big shout out to Kestrel Cole for allowing Jess the time to be here today.
Thank you.
But thank you. I hope that was as enjoyable for you as it was for me. Bloody hell, Emma. But thank you. I loved that. I knew most of that story, but there were some highlights in there that I wasn't aware of and or needed a good reminder.
Great.
So thank you. I know there's going to be somebody out there who resonates with your story, and you're just amazing.
Oh, stop.
I won't. I will not, Jess. No, but thank you. I love and adore you since the day I met you, and don't ever stop being you because you're incredible.
Back at ya.
Thanks, Jess.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for listening and or watching this episode of Empowered. Don't forget, if you would like to be a feature guest on the series of podcasts, you're more than welcome. Please connect with me, and hopefully something resonated with you today and gave you one of those aha moments. Again, thank you and welcome to Empowered.